In Ecuador, the National Electoral Council kicked off the day of local elections and constitutional referendum. More than 13 million citizens are expected to vote. In Peru, Dina Boluarte's government has declared a state of emergency in 7 regions of the country for a period of 60 days. In Cyprus, polls closed on Sunday without a positive result for any of the candidates, sending the close presidential election to a runoff on February 12. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Ecuador, the National Electoral Council opened the day of local elections and constitutional referendum. Let's learn more about what is at stake in this electoral day.
13,040,797 voters throughout the country and another 409,250 from abroad are expected to vote, in a total of 4,380 polling stations. Ecuadorians will renew a total of 5,633 authorities, divided into 23 prefects, 23 deputy prefects, 221 mayors, 868 urban councillors, 437 rural councillors, and 4,084 principal members of local councils. At the same time, voters will have to answer to a referendum promoted by President Guillermo Lasso, which seeks to authorize the amendment of several articles of the Ecuadorian Constitution through 8 questions on political, social, and environmental issues. This consultation is rejected by social movements that claim that it is a maneuver that does not provide solutions to real problems such as unemployment, education, health, and the insecurity crisis. Those who are critics of the executive add that the election seeks to distract citizens' attention from structural problems such as public safety and the prison crisis.
Sunday's constitutional referendum promoted by President Guillermo Lasso has been strongly questioned by social organizations in the country. Among the most controversial issues are the extradition of drug offenders and the reduction of the number of legislators. Representatives of several social and union organizations signed a document on their commitment to vote no to the questions posed by the executive. One of their main arguments is that the referendum was arranged without the participation of social sectors and that instead of solving the country's grave insecurity problems, they pose a threat to social protests. The referendum also proposed to set a minimum number of militants for political movements, as well as the modification of the selection of process of control authorities. Hours after the polls opened, the president of the National Electoral Council of Ecuador, Diana Atamain, reported that the election day is developing smoothly and with a high voter turnout.
We informed the country that the election day is proceeding with absolute normality, with 100% of the polling stations set up. However, it is worth mentioning that the news that occurred at the beginning of the day were the following. 47% of the polling stations were set up at 7 o'clock in the morning and the remaining 53% from 7:30 a.m. onwards. After 3.5 hours from the beginning of the voting, we informed the country that 10% of voters have already casted their ballots.
The president of the National Electoral Council also condemned the violence following the death of candidate Omar Menendez and called on the prosecutor's office to investigate the incident.
In view of the regrettable events of the last few hours, I would like to express my deep solidarity with the family and political organization to which Omar Menendez, candidate for mayor of Puerto Lopez, was a member, murdered last night. As the National Electoral Council, we strongly condemn this vile act and we call on the public prosecutor's office and all competent units to investigate these violent acts that threaten the peace and security of Ecuadorians and affect our democracy.
In Peru, the executive branch led by appointed President Dina Boluarte declared a state of emergency in 7 regions of the country for a period of 60 days. The measure, which mainly affects the southern region of the country, including the departments of Madre de Dios, Cusco, Puno, and Apurímac, among others, was ordered through a decree published on Saturday. This comes as a response to the ongoing protests demanding Boluarte's resignation across the nation. The decree seeks to ensure the control of the country's internal order at hands of the national police with the support of the armed forces. During curfew hours, public roads may only be used for the acquisition, production, and supply of food. In the case of the region of Puno, the army will be in charge of controlling the area, and a stricter regime is to be expected, including the extension of the curfew from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. local time. The Puno region has been one of the most severely hit by police and military repression during the past weeks of ongoing protests. Social unrest continues in Peru as a massive march against the government of President Dina Boluarte ended with police repression on Saturday in downtown Lima. The streets protests happened hours after a Roman Catholic cardinal voiced dismay that the nation's Congress had again declined to advance elections to defuse Peru's political crisis. Riot police suppressed the protests once night fell, scattering amid tear gas volleys. The National Ombudsman's office has reported 15 people detained because of these events. The activists demanded President Dina Boluarte's resignation, Congress closure, and a constituent process. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian met with Deputy Chairman of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Cuba, Ricardo Cabrizas-Ruiz, to review the latest economic developments. Amir-Abdollahian referred to Iranian high-ranking officials' view toward extensive relations between the two countries in order to upgrade the economic relations to the level of the political ones. Later on, he highlighted his nation's view towards unilateralism as a terminated path in the global developments. Meanwhile, Cabrizas elaborated on the current economic developments as well as ways to promote relations between both nations. In this context, visiting Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian also met with his Cuban counterpart Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla in Havana, Cuba. At the meeting, the Iranian high government official raised the United States policy of imposing sanctions against other countries, including Iran and several South American countries, saying such a policy is doomed to fail. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Cyprus voted on Sunday in a close presidential election between the three front-runners, with the electorate focused on corruption and the economy amid deadlock over the island's division. A record 14 candidates are standing, with the winner needing 50% plus one vote to succeed two-term President Nikos Anastasiades. Opinion polls predict a runoff on February 12, with no contender expected to secure an immediate outright majority. The last opinion poll by the State Broadcasting Corporation on January 27th had Nikos Christodoulides leading at 26.5%, above Neophytou at 22.5%, and Andreas Mavroyiannis 21%.
All in all, it was a successful presidency, having in mind that the economy grew and came out of a big crisis. But certain issues regarding corruption have arisen that need to be addressed by the new president, and also continue the reunification process.
What the new president has to focus on is the economic side. That's where we have most of the problems. That's why people are more angry, as we may say. But with the immigration or the Cyprus problem, unfortunately, it's not in our hands. I wish it was, but it wasn't.
Polls closed on Sunday without a positive result for any of the candidates sending the presidential election to a runoff on February 12. Former Cypriot Foreign Minister Nikos Christodoulides won Sunday's elections after securing more than 31% of the votes. However, he did not reach the necessary majority to avoid a second round. In second place with more than 29% of the vote was Andreas Mavroyiannis, who will also be on the runoff. Averov Neophytou, leader of the ruling party, is out after obtaining just over 26%. The main candidates are seen as an extension of outgoing President Nikos Anastasiades, who is leaving office after 2 terms in office. More than 20 left-wing French mayors are urging President Emmanuel Macron to immediately address the alarming situation of hopelessness in the cold winter. 22 leftist mayors signed an open letter to President Macron, citing the latest report by the FTS Foundation released last week, which estimates the number of homeless people in France at 330,000, a worrying increase. The officials say they cannot remain indifferent to the social destitution that is seen every day and that in this winter is alarming. On Sunday in Italy, a massive internet service outage was reported in several regions. The TIM company, one of the main internet operators in the country, said it received more than 7,500 reports of service failures early in the day. Main cities like Rome, Milan, Naples, Turin, or Palermo experienced difficulties when trying to connect to the internet through landlines. Meanwhile, there were no internet glitches with mobile devices. In a press release, the company said the incident had to do with an international interconnection problem, and it dismissed the possibility of a cyber attack. According to the Energy Ministry of Hungary, the European Union could soon be implementing new increases in energy prices when the EU price cap on Russian oil products comes into force. 97% of the Hungarian population is against imposing new sanctions on Russia, for it would lead to higher energy prices and fuel shortages. Since June 2022, the European Union imposed sanctions including a ban on the imports of Russian hydrocarbons. According to the Hungarian Ministry of Energy, half of the energy and fuel used in all of Europe comes from Russia, so it opposes any more sanctions. In the Austrian Alps, the bodies of 5 people were located this Sunday following severe snow avalanches during the winter sports season. Among the last 4 victims is a 59-year-old man who was buried by snow while helping to remove a dense mass in the town of the Bantal. The other 3 were skiers, aged 29 and 33, and a guide from 62. Further personal information of the 5th victim is unknown, although the death was confirmed in Langenfeld in the Otzal Valley. For the moment, authorities have not specified the nationalities of the athletes found on Sunday. In recent years, avalanches in Austria, a major winter sports destination, have caused an annual average of 20 deaths. Russia sent a meteorological satellite of the Electro-L range into a low Earth orbit. The device will send images 24 hours a day and update meteorological data every 15 to 30 minutes, thus helping to improve weather forecasts and provide early warnings of storms and other emergency situations. A Roscosmos Corporation statement reports that the Proton M rocket carrying the Electro-L satellite number 4 lifted off shortly after noon from the Baikonur space base on the territory of Kazakhstan, and 10 minutes later propelled the satellite into a distant orbit from the Earth by about 35,800 kilometers. This is the first space launch of 2023 on Roscosmos' schedule and will be followed by 2 more in February and a third in March, also from Baikonur, in the context of the International Space Station program. We have more news coming up after a fun short break, so don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In China, a major water project sets record figures for water transfer to the most vulnerable areas in times of drought. The major water transfer project from south to north in operation since 2014 has benefited more than 150 million people. It has the 3 routes: the middle route, which is the most important one, plus the eastern route that has been operating since 2013, and the western route that is in the planning stages, pending construction. The president of the Yanchuan Water Network Corporation said the government considers the completion of this mega water project a priority for 2023. China expressed on Sunday its great dissatisfaction with the decision of the United States to blow up its scientific research balloon because it had accidentally traveled through its airspace. His foreign ministry condemned the use of force against the Chinese aircraft, despite the clarification 2 days ago that it was a civilian vehicle conducting meteorological studies that had deviated from its scheduled path due to strong westerly winds and its limited ability to steer itself. Beijing deplored Washington's move regardless of the ongoing communication on the issue, and they called to handle the situation in a calm, restrained and professional manner. The foreign ministry added that China will protect the legitimate interests of enterprises linked to the device and take the corresponding measures. Pope Francis appealed on Sunday to the people of South Sudan to lay down their weapons of hatred at an open-air mass on the final day of his pilgrimage to a country hit by violence and poverty. Large crowds of ecstatic worshippers streamed into the John Garang Mausoleum in the capital Juba to see the pontiff, who has made peace and reconciliation the theme of his 3-day trip to the world's newest nation. During his speech, Pope Francis voiced hope that the people of South Sudan, a country that has been at war for about half its young life, would build a reconciled future. This was his first papal visit to the largely Christian country since it achieved independence from Sudan in 2011. In South Africa, the energy crisis has worsened, with blackouts of up to 10 hours which affect every other service in the country. South Africa's Mineral Resources and Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe, said the country's energy situation could be solved within 6 months to a year. The minister said the Eskom electricity company, which supplies 90% of the national demand, has about 48,000 megawatts connected to the national grid. However, close to 22,000 megawatts are inactive. Constant power cuts have affected pumping stations, causing breakdowns in the water supply system and affecting many households in Johannesburg and Pretoria, two of the most populated cities in the country. In South Africa, Vice President David Mabuza resigned. Mabuza's resignation comes ahead of a government reshuffle expected in the country in the coming days. Mabuza confirmed his resignation on Saturday while attending a funeral in the province of Mpumalanga in the north of the country. He said he is stepping down in favor of Paul Mashatile, who was elected last December as vice president of the ruling African National Congress, or ANC. Although the president can appoint any member of the National Assembly as vice president, the tradition of the ANC in power since the advent of democracy in 1994 dictates that the top 2 posts in the executive be held by the party's top 2 leaders. Mashatile, former ACN treasurer, is expected to be sworn in as a parliament member next Monday, and indications that he may be ready to take over as vice president. This February, the Habano Festival returns to Havana, Cuba. The event usually attracts more than 1,000 people from some 70 countries. The international corporation Habanos S.A. notified that after 2 years of absence due to COVID-19 restrictions, the Great Premium Tobacco Festival returns in its 23rd edition from February 27 to March 3rd. At the rally, distributors and fans will relive the initiatives that have made this annual event so beloved by famous attendees, such as visits to renowned rolling factories, plantations, conferences, competitions, and 3 very special evenings where they will learn firsthand about the latest novelties. Habanos, Cuba's premium cigars, continue an upward trend that convinces the most demanding markets with their quality. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.